everyone, I'm Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. And you can probably tell that I got my hair cut. Today I'm going to talk about, or rather rank, all the dresses Maria wears in any adaptation of the Von Trapp story. Obviously in The Sound of Music, right after Maria meets the children for the first time, Brigitte comments on her dress.
I think your dress is the ugliest one I ever saw.
And yes, it is. Depending on the adaptation at least. All of the quote-unquote ugliest dresses I ever saw, even in adaptations that aren't The Sound of Music, are pretty ugly. But some are uglier than others. So we're going to be working out which is the ugliest and which is the best, and the best will be the worst because it's the worst at its job of being ugly. And as I said, this extends to adaptations that aren't The Sound of Music, because if you actually read Maria's book, it was an ugly dress that she wore when she first went to the Von Trapp villa. According to Maria's memoir, the dress she wore that first day was an old-fashioned blue serge, an old-fashioned blue serge gown with funny lattice work around the neck and sleeves. And, according to Agatha's memoir, that being the oldest daughter, not the mother, aka Liesl, sort of. That's a whole nother argument. According to Agatha's memoir, which was filled with illustrations done by the author herself, it looks very much like this. Obviously that's not a very clear picture, but given that and Maria's description, I think we can conclude it's not the best looking outfit. But irrespective of whether it was ugly or not, it is ugly in every single one of the adaptations. And that's what we're here to look at today. As I said, we're going to be ranking them from best to worst. Best being the least ugly and worst being, well, the ugliest. But the best is also going to be, in a way, the worst. Because the dress is supposed to be ugly, and the least ugly it is means it's doing a worse job of being ugly. But given the clip we just rolled, I think it's only fair to start at the beginning, which is indeed NBC Live, worn by the lovely and completely miscast Carrie Underwood. Is this dress in any way unattractive? Granted, it's nothing special, but it's nothing that I would call unattractive. It's far more plain. I mentioned it in my review of NBC Live, but the costumes in this version have a big problem, especially when it comes to Carrie. I read an article about this production ages ago. I'll leave it linked in the down below if I can find it. But it talked about how the ugliest dress Brigitte ever saw was the one that Carrie looked the best in. And yeah, for the most part, that's correct. Now, of course, everything in this video is going to be subjective, but I'm just going with my opinions. And whether I think Carrie's best costume is the ugly dress or something else, it is absolutely not the worst. I've mentioned it in a couple of videos before, but the outfit she wears when she and Georg come back from the honeymoon is atrocious. She looks like she's pregnant. And that looks so much worse than this. So, with Carrie out of the way, let's move on to the next dress. And that is the one Maria wears in the Von Trapp-Family, A Life of Music. This movie is actually based on Agatha's memoir, the one where the aforementioned drawing came from. Obviously, in that case, it's not Maria's story, but that doesn't mean we don't see her arrive in the dress. Though, not being Sound of Music, it's never addressed as the ugliest dress anyone ever saw. But it's not the best. It's not the worst, because it's only number 2 here. But it's not the best. This one we almost have to talk about twofold, because when she first arrives she's wearing a jacket over the top of it, and she wears the jacket for at least half the time we see her in that dress, and with the jacket it doesn't look half bad. When she takes the jacket off, it climbs up several notches of ugly. It's a very shapeless dress, and as you'll see as we go down the list, a lot of them are shapeless. And as far as I'm concerned, shapeless counts for a lot in terms of unattractive. But as I said, with the jacket on, she looks much better. So in terms of the overall outfit, it's nothing I would call unattractive. With the jacket off, just on the dress itself, it would probably be lower on this list, but I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt and saying we're counting it with the jacket, which means it's prettier than a lot of them, and therefore worse at being ugly. The dress itself, in addition to being pretty shapeless, is not all that good otherwise. It's got this weird stripy pattern and looks very pale and bland. But when she wears the jacket, it looks much better. And given that she wears the jacket for more time than she doesn't, I'm counting it with the jacket. So moving up or down or whatever you want to call it, moving on, we have the dress from ITV Live's version of The Sound of Music, where Maria was played by Cara Toynton. Am I saying that right? I'm really not good with a lot of pronunciations in this video. Obviously, this. So let's talk about the worst thing about this dress, which is the colour. It's this weird olivey green, something like that. And it's not all that attractive. Cara doesn't look too bad in it, but I don't think it's a very attractive colour, period. But other than the colour, it's actually a nice dress, I would say. As a dress on its own, I think it would be higher than the one we see in Life of Music. But as I said, I was judging that on the whole ensemble, and I think said whole ensemble looks better than this dress. But getting back to Cara, it's not a bad dress. It just seems to be like a shirt dress to me, and if we put aside the colour, it's just something very casual and common. Continuing on, number 4 is the one I'm sure you've all been waiting for since the beginning. The one Julie Andrews wears in the 1965 film. Julie can pull off anything and look amazing. I've seen a picture of her where she almost looks like she's wearing a plastic garbage bag. I don't know if she actually is wearing one or if it's just the dress, but it can sort of come across as a garbage bag, and she still looks brilliant in it. So she can clearly pull anything off. But putting aside how wonderful Julie looks in anything, this dress's biggest problem is the material. The material is very rough and worn and thick, and it really shows. This dress is very fitted, which we haven't seen so far on the list, and it's actually probably the only one on this list that is that fitted. Sort of. You'll see what I mean in a minute. The jacket is just as worn and as rough as the dress, and the jackets in ITV Live and Life of Music are much better, and much more attractive, but I feel like this jacket complements this dress. I'm probably just in way too deep with Sound of Music and I've watched it so many times, but I actually think she looks better with the jacket on rather than without. Again, like Life of Music, she has the jacket on for more time than she doesn't. So I'm kind of counting the jacket as part of the dress. Moving on, we have the dress in the Trapp-Family story anime, and this dress is very heavily inspired by the one in Sound of Music. In fact, no, it's not inspired. It is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, cannot possibly be mistaken as anything other than a recreation of Dorothy Jenkins' design. With that said, I'm just going to put it on the same level as the one in Sound of Music. That dress and this one are equal 4th place. Julie looks brilliant in anything, and so an animated version of her would be exactly the same, I think. The only real difference between these two dresses, apart from one being real and one being animated, is the neckline. Obviously in both it's hidden behind the jacket at the beginning, but when she takes the jacket off in the anime, it's got a different neckline, no sleeves, and a top under it. Basically it's the Do-Re-Mi dress. I'm still leaving it as tight with the one from the film. Moving on, we've only got 2 left. We have the dress in Die Trapp-Familie. I don't know if I'm saying that right, I don't know German, but let's just keep going. The worst part about this dress is the hat. In her memoir, Maria describes the hat she wore as basically like a fireman's helmet. And this one probably gets the closest. All the other dresses in this video have hats along with them, except Carrie. But this is by far the worst. It does indeed, as described in Maria's memoir, look like a fireman's helmet. I honestly feel like it's so awful that the dress almost doesn't matter anymore. Like, the dress takes a back seat when compared to how ugly the hat is. The outfit as a whole is probably the closest to what Maria actually wore that day. But given what Maria describes it as, that isn't a good thing. It looks really ugly. And indeed, I'd say the dress does look like the one Maria actually wore, or at least how she described it as, to a certain extent. Just like the real one, it's got this weird, not at all attractive trim on it. Just like the real one, the hat is absolutely hideous. And I'm no expert on what qualifies as old-fashioned in the 1950s or even the 1920s, which was when she really came. But given all the evidence, something classified as old-fashioned back then is not good. It's not a good look. And yet, this isn't the worst. The absolute ugliest dress I have seen in any adaptation for Maria is the one she wears in the London Palladium production. Obviously there are tons of others. Every production of Sound of Music would have a different one, but this is the last one I'm going to talk about because the London Palladium production was actually the one I saw at the theatre. And oh my god, this dress is hideous. It's not just shapeless. It's shapeless, but then it's got this ugly smock thing over it. The smock, pinafore, whatever you want to call it, is this weird brown, green, I don't know, colour with this horrible pattern on it. It's like something out of the 70s. It reminds me of the carpet my grandparents had in their kitchen. I was only 6 when they got rid of that, but I still remember it so clearly. It's just atrocious. Like ITV, the colour of the dress is that weird, ugly olive green colour. But that's just the beginning of this outfit. The hat in this one is actually not that bad. It actually looks alright. But it does not make up for how hideous the dress is. Maybe if we could actually see the dress, it would be alright. Maybe. And then, as if that wasn't enough, she's got this weird lace collar thing on it. Maybe if the dress had just one of those 3 hideous elements, it might be alright. But it has all 3, and this, in my opinion, is the undisputed ugliest dress I've ever seen. So it's number 6, 7, these 2 were tied. So it is the ugliest, but it's also the best at being ugly, so it's also the best. I should probably sign off now. My battery's going red. But that really is everything for today. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these ugly dresses. I'm completely with London Palladium Brigitte. This one is just atrocious. But let me know if you have a different opinion. Did you think one of the others was uglier? Do you think the order should be changed? Let me know. What's the ugliest to you? I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next week. So long, farewell!